Am I the asshole for ruining the holidays due to placing our mom in lieutenant colonel? So, I, 28 male, have two siblings Theo, 35M, and Abby, 38F. Our mother had a stroke back in 2019 and our father passed away in early 2021. I have been taking care of her since. I dropped out of my graduate program to take care of our mom. Since January things with our mom became more stressful, increased memory issues, lack of sleep, and I was generally burnt out. During this time my siblings did not offer any assistance. They have families and lives. It fell on me because at the time I was staying with our parents in their apartment in NY since I was going to school in NY. Each year I would fly or drive to VA so our mom can see my siblings and her grandkids. I found a place for our mom back in February and I informed my siblings. They had no objection at the time. Now that major holidays are coming around they have been asking me if I am going to bring mom. I told them no I was not, but if they wanted to take her they were 100% free to take her. I told them she is not in a prison and I did put them on the list for approved people to take her out. They told me they could not do that, it would be far too complicated. I told them that is unfortunate, but I am going on vacation so I would not be available. Now all of a sudden I have everyone and their mother reaching out to me telling me how selfish and heartless I am being towards our mother. I pretty much lashed out at Theo, who is hosting this year, and told him off. I told him he has no right to call me selfish. I was the one that stepped up to care for mom after her stroke and our dad passed. I handled the sleepless nights, the wandering, the outbursts, the doctor's appointments. I handled getting her Medicaid, I handled everything and put my life on hold to do so. They got to see the pleasant side of our mom, and if she had an outburst I was the one that had to deal with it. Then he said I should have asked for help. He claimed he figured I had it all handled and did not need help. I told him I should not have had to ask. I was 23 when mom had her stroke and 25 when dad passed. You knew I was stressed and was handling everything. I told him he did not even offer to help me set up the arrangements for our dad's funeral. Neither did Abby. He said he cannot read minds. I should have asked. So in that moment I said fine and asked him, can you come pick up mom so she can go over for Thanksgiving? I will cover the travel fare. He came up with excuses like it was short notice. I said fine, what about Christmas, and again came up with an excuse. After that I told him this is why I did not ask, because you fucks will always come up with an excuse to get out of it. I told him that is how you two have always been. Apologize for the borderline rant, I am just pissed ATM. Not the asshole. One of my siblings is not the best and just expects people to cover for them. It's tiring and they don't want to be wrong, so you have to end up as the bad guy when you didn't do anything. Good luck, be prepared for some fallout. Not the asshole. You should have asked. A webcomic about the mental load. Not completely on topic, but still seems apt, given your brother stating you should have asked. It is not your job to manage your siblings. It is definitely not your job to drop everything to take mom to an event others are hosting. Why can't they fucking figure it out? I would turn the script on your brother and remind him that love is shown by actions. Where has his love for mom been? Not the asshole. As someone who works in lieutenant colonel, you did the right thing. We see so much caregiver burnout. We are trained to work with our residents. We are trained to handle outbursts, dementia, etc. And we get relief. We get to change shifts and step away from things. It is incredible seeing the change in some of our families once their loved one is in our care. The amount of relief they feel. They're able to fully just think about themselves again. Your siblings suck. They're the worst kinds of people, in my opinion. The type of people who refuse to acknowledge the stress their family member is experiencing. And who demonize placing a loved one in lieutenant colonel. Not the asshole. Givers have to set limits because takers never do. As long as you keep giving, they'll keep taking. You have a life also. Live it just as they're living their lives. Not the asshole, and no apology needed. Been there, done that, myself. Maybe have some fun, ask them if they'll have her over for Valentine's Day. Evil grin. Ta. Good for you for making the tough but good decision of what was best for you and your mom. You're right. She's their mom too. If they wanted to help they would have done so without you having to ask. They would have been sending you some money to hire a nurse so that you could finish school. They don't get to ignore your mom and neglect you and now pretend to be offended because they can't play happy family for the holidays. I hope you have an amazing vacation. Am I the asshole for telling a young adult to sit down in a nice restaurant? My wife and I were out to dinner at a nice restaurant. Not like suit and tie nice, but not blue jeans and t-shirt casual either. At the table beside us was a younger couple, if I had to guess late teens early 20s. The girl kept standing up. I'm sure it's a nervous thing or something like that, but she would literally stand by our table kind of lording over us while talking to her boyfriend. She even did it while she was eating. My wife was clearly annoyed by it and I decided I'd had enough. I said to her, if you are going to go to an adult restaurant you need to sit down and act like an adult. The boyfriend mouthed something that I completely ignored, but the girl sat her ass down and then they left. Not the asshole. This sounds just like people talking on speakerphone in public. If they don't have manners, then maybe they deserve to be admonished publicly. If she needed to stretch her legs, she could have walked to the restroom, walked outside, etc. But to hover over your table, your wife, and continue to talk to her dining companion? She got what she deserved. In that manner? Yes, it was rude. I would have just led with, "Would you mind please sitting down or not hovering over our table, so that we can enjoy our space without being crowded?" Not the asshole. I'm tired of coddling people behaving badly because they might have some reason for it. If you have issues that mean you need to stand up and walk around other people's tables, then don't go to a restaurant. You are the asshole for how you said it, not what you said. You could have very easily said, "Hey, it is very distressing, annoying to have you standing up so frequently. Could you please stop," rather than going straight to insults about being an adult. Info. What does lording over your table mean in this context? Try as I might to visualize this, I'm having an impossible time figuring out how this is possible unless the tables are practically stacked on top of each other in this nice restaurant. Was she crossing the aisles between your seating accommodations and standing right next to your table or something? I think the age is irrelevant, and unfortunate that you had to remind someone to behave appropriately. Not the asshole, but I'm sure the pitchforks are coming for you because you didn't see to her mental needs for whatever she suffers from. Or that you acted like an adult and said something yourself instead of making it awkward for the staff to try educate her instead. Am I the asshole for revealing a family secret to my husband about his father? My husband's father died of a heart attack at age 42 on the plane while flying to his home country to visit family. My husband, Joe, was 13 and his sister was 9 at the time. His mother had few skills and poor English. From that moment on, Joe worked to support the family after school and at grueling factory shifts after finishing high school. He eventually pursued a trade and built a good life. We raised 2 children and are financially secure. In the 40 years I have known them, Joe, his sister, and their mother, now deceased, idolized their father and spoke wistfully about how much better their lives would have been had he lived. This summer, Joe's mother cousin visited from the home country and was visibly surprised to see his parents' wedding portrait in a prominent place in our home. At a private lunch, she asked if they had forgiven the father. At my blank stare, she was incredulous that they didn't know. Her mother was their mother's older sister, and she stayed for months to pick up the pieces after the tragedy. She arranged the funeral, dealt with the finances, and discovered that the father was flying to meet another woman, who he had met in Canada, to start a new life. He had most of their savings on him in cash. He was apparently abandoning his family. She kept this information from her sister to spare her the added heartbreak and to protect the children. Whether she ever told her sister the truth is unknown, but my husband and his sister certainly never knew. We agreed that I should not tell my husband. When he boasted about what a wonderful man his father was, I bit my tongue. I finally caved when Joe recently was speculating on how rich we could have been, owning property that his father would have eventually bought. I told him what his cousin had said, and how his father was perceived by the relatives who knew. Joe was calm and flatly denied everything. He admitted that he had met the other woman at his father's restaurant where his father introduced her as a friend. Whether or not it was an affair was none of his business, Joe maintains. I won't tell his sister, as she is emotionally fragile and still references losing her father at age 9 as an excuse for her life choices, financial problems, an unstable partner, etc. The sad reality is that things likely would have been worse if he had lived. As it now stands, Joe and I agree to disagree. Cheating irks me, but family abandonment is unforgivable. My mother-in-law was a kind, loving person. I no longer want the fairy tale wedding portrait dominating our home. It is built on lies. Am I the asshole for telling my husband? You are the asshole. You said you wouldn't tell him, but went back on your word because he is bragging about his dead father's legacy. If you swore to not tell him but arbitrarily decided you were going to go back on your word for your selfish reasons, you are the awe. Regardless if it's true or not, you shouldn't have created doubt within your husband about his father for something that is a rumor, or if it's true, why should a child hate his dead father when there's no evidence he would not have returned or been active in his life? I think what you did was extremely selfish because you wanted to drop his father's legend down a peg or two because his kids idolized his legend. It is not your place to reveal someone else's family secrets when there are no crimes being committed. I don't think you should keep secrets from your husband, and especially if ITHE information is relevant to him. Not the asshole. However, I question the motivation of the cousin who has dropped this toxic information into your lap. It's got nothing to do with you and just puts you in an impossible position. You are the asshole. If you'd told him gently and lovingly, Because you thought he had a right to know, or because you didn't feel good keeping a secret from him, that would be one thing. But that's not what you did. You told your husband an incredibly hurtful thing that shook the very foundation of what he believes about his life. And why? To shut him up because you didn't like him bragging about what could have been. That's pretty ugly behavior. And your self-righteousness is a little misplaced. What happens between spouses should never become a problem for the children. You don't know what this man would have done had he lived. It's entirely likely that he would still have seen his children and provided for them as best he could. You devastated your husband over speculation. I don't have an opinion on the assholeness, but there is no way your mother-in-law didn't know all their savings was found on him in cash. She knew, but, very reasonably, didn't tell their kids. Not the asshole. But is your husband okay with cheating, or does he think you're lying to him? After he has had time to reflect on this information, you need to talk about this with him. I don't think I could be with someone so obtuse. He doesn't want to hear anything about his father that goes against his beliefs. If he is okay with cheating, you have a bigger problem. You're the asshole. The only person you hurt here was your husband, not his father. Am I the asshole for doing things behind my folks' backs, saving up to eventually move out? Hi people, I'm a woman in my mid-20s. I currently live with my folks, Sarah and George, fake names. They are in their mid to late 60s. They took me in when I was a baby due to my mother, their daughter, having issues at the time. When I was younger, my folks were overprotective of me. Due to my mother having run away from home a few times, being a wild girl, parties, sneaking out, DRGs and drinking, all the cliché rebellious stuff. And they were afraid I'd do the same. I wasn't bothered though. The paranoia over me going to peers' houses did get bothersome at times, but it was fine. Then I started developing my own interests and beliefs. They were not supportive, commonly telling me to be in the real world. Then when I'd make friends, they would judge the hell out of them. I couldn't have ambitions, wanting to one day be a police officer or an artist, anything of the sort. You gotta be realistic, I'd hear all too often. They still see me as a child. It took them far too long to allow me to do anything. I just started doing things without telling them to not result in conflict. They also have emotionally abused me, I think. Insult the way I laugh. My weight was always an issue to them, my preferences in clothes. Commonly shout at me for the most petty things. I still flinch when I hear my name called by someone. I pay to live in their house, and Sarah has been telling me I'll be staying with them indefinitely. I'll get the house someday basically. I was fine with that at first, so I didn't pay much mind for saving my money. Her attitude got worse though, starting when I was reorganizing my bedroom and locking my door for privacy. She would also get so angry if I took time off work. I have slept in my car in grocery store parking lots when I took approved time off work, just so I didn't have to wake up to Sarah storming in and shouting at me. I am really scared of her, I hate to say. Then, I finally made the decision to start doing things for my health. I went to the doctor without telling Sarah or George. Got a prescription that's been incredible for my health as of late. Then I went to the bank and opened a new account only I can access. I have been packing away my unnecessary items like merchandise from games and shows I like. I've been looking for houses to learn what I'll need to be prepared for in the future. There's a lot of other things they've done. I am open to sharing if anyone wants further details. But, am I the asshole for doing all these things in secret? I am terrified of how they'll react if they find out. Inevitably they'll know I'm moving when it happens, and Sarah'll probably attempt to guilt-trip me into staying with them. They might have a hard time without me around anymore, and they'll have no trust in me when they uncover the truth. No, you're not the asshole. I escaped a cult once, so I know how it feels to secretly pack and plan. You're basically going through the same thing. Sorry you've had to live in that fear your whole damn life. They are definitely abusive, especially seeing as you're a grown-ass woman paying rent. Not the asshole. What you're doing is creating a safety plan and making sure you have the resources and funds to leave an emotionally and financially manipulative, abusive situation. Info. Just curious, when you say that they might have a hard time without you around anymore, do you mean because of what you paid to live there, did around the house, both, other? What you're doing is smart and absolutely the right choice. You deserve peace of mind and to be able to be free to grow and explore as your own person. Not the asshole. You're not an asshole for saving to better your future or doing things for yourself that you shouldn't have to hide to begin with. Not the asshole. I wonder why your mother had mental health, substance abuse, other issues. Please get a post office box and order copies of your documents if you don't already have them. Also, freeze your credit. And not the asshole. I didn't read the whole thing, but there's a reason why your mother acted out at a young age. That reason probably has to do with them. Not the asshole for looking out for your future.